My daughter won this trip 4 years ago in a raffle for $100. Wow. And it was for 2 people for 8 days to Scotland. Wow. So that was a year and a half before COVID. COVID presents itself. We can't go for almost 2 years. There was no traveling to Scotland. But my daughter gifted me with this, and I gifted half of it, the other half, to my cousin who's a year and a half younger than me. In the meantime, she gets cancer, and I postpone it for a year, and she ends up passing away. Rick Steves is who we went through. They are absolutely wonderful people, wonderful travel guides, wonderful service. Everything was set up for us. They allow me to, I go and I telephone them and say, my cousin has passed away, can I gift it back to my daughter? And add my other daughter, so 3 of us went. And all it cost me was $3,600 for the second daughter and airfare. Everything else was paid for. Wow. So they set up the program. You are free to leave anytime you choose. They gave us breakfast and dinner every single night. And the information that they gave us was number 1. So if you're thinking about taking a tour anywhere, Rick Steves, they're out of Everett area. You can go up and watch any movie, anytime. Anywhere you want to go, and they'll go through it with you and design your program for you. So without further ado, we'll start. So we started, go ahead, Keith. We started at Ibanez, came down and ended up in Edinburgh. It's not Edinburgh, it's Edinburgh. Okay, Ed's in the bra. That's how you remember it. In the bra. In the bra. Edinburgh. Okay, so we fly into Ibanez. Ibanez, go ahead, the next. Here's our tour group. It was a small tour group. They tried to never go any more than 25, 30 people. That way you get a better experience. Next. Next. Here's Ibanez. That's the Loch Ness River on the back side of it, which is called Urquhart. It's spelled U-R-Q-U-H-A-R-T. Urquhart area. It would be just like a district. The Rick Steves tour that I took was 8 days, included the guide, breakfast, lunch, any kind of questions you would have. If you wanted to go out of the area, they would hook you up to the people that could take you either by plane, bus, water, whatever way you wanted to, as long as you ended up coming back to the place that we were going to stay at. Okay. Next, please. So, to honor my cousin that originally was gifted, I took her ashes and sprinkled them. I went across a bridge, running across the bridge, and I sprinkled her ashes all across the bridge so she could be a part of the Loch Ness area, because our great-great-grandfather happened to be a prize baker in Edinburgh. See, I want to say the borough. It's not borough or burr. It's bra. Our great-great-grandpa Scott was from there. Go ahead, next. I want to touch on a couple things about Ibanez. Ibanez is it's on the northeast coast. It's the largest city in Scotland. It's for nature lovers. There's all kinds of paths, little forest areas, lots of old ruins from medieval time. So you've got a little nooks and crannies. You could spend days just in Ibanez if you so choose to. The Lost Ness Bank is the largest freshwater that goes out into the sea. Any kind of Loch Ness, which means a tributary out to a main source, a main sea or ocean, that's what the Loch Ness signifies. It is an area of water that's surrounded at least 3 sides by land. That's what that signifies. So this is the Battle of Culloden, okay? And this goes back to Jacobites. I don't know if you know about the Jacobites, okay? In the 1600s, the King Charles, that's okay, King Charles was defeated by the British, and the Jacobites were defeated, and the British actually beheaded them. They slaughtered the men, women, children, took over the land. And I'm sure you're going, where does Jacobies come from? Okay, if I can remember to read my writing here. Jacobies is a Latin word for James, and it was the King Charles James, that was under rule at that time. So the Jacobites, they were army people, they were just soldiers. They wanted to defend it, but they were also in the bogs. Bogs are like, it would be going down to Ilwaco and you see all the bogs with no trees, there's no houses, there's no hills, so it's wide open country. There's no way. The British had, they had,
Didn't they have cannons?
Pardon me?
Cannons?
They had cannons, but they also had, like, I was trying to think of swords with a gun on one end and then a sword on the other end. They were dual swords, and the Jacobites had tools with iron on them, pretty medieval, nothing like the British. So they didn't stand a chance, and they were in water up to their knees in the bogs. There was no way they could survive. This was just a monument to celebrate the battle and how it destroyed. There was only one person, a 16-year-old boy, that survived that battle. Yes.
Didn't it undo the Klan system
Yes.
in Scotland?
Yes. The Klan was no longer after that. It was the beginning of the end. There are for a few people that continued to celebrate their past heritage, but it became more British after that. So, yes, you're right. Go ahead, Keith. This is Kador. Kador. And I write it K-A-D-O-O-R so I can say it right. And some people said Cawdor. Well, it's Kador. It's a castle in Northshire. Northshire is the community for which the castle is, just like the one before. And it was in 1370. It belonged to the Calder family, so that's where it got its name, Calder, C-O-L-D-E-R, Calder. And in the 16th century, it was passed down to the Campbells. That's a good Scottish name, Campbell. Campbell with a P and a B, C-A-M-P-B-E-L-L. We have some camels here, but they're not Scottish if they don't have the P and the B. I asked about that, and that's what they told me. So this particular castle was a private fortress in the late 1200s and the early 1300s. It was privately owned by whoever was rich enough to own it and control it. Go ahead, Kate. Those are my daughters. My oldest daughter is on the left. Her name is Julia, and my youngest is Jenny on the right. Okay. Something I thought about when we were there, they were serving haggis. Haggis, Haggis. Do you know what haggis is? Yes. Some people say haggis. It's called. What is it, Mike?
Disgusting.
No, it is not.
Did you try some?
It's
I did.
Yeah.
It was the last day in country, and I actually tried it, and it was good.
It's sausage and blood and meat. It would be comparable to our meatloaf minus onions. They don't use onions like we use onions. But they usually serve it with potatoes. They eat tons of potatoes, little potatoes, big potatoes, with a little bit of a cream sauce, not very much, but a little bit of cream sauce with a haggis. Some people say haggis, but whatever floats your boat. Okay, next one. This Perthshire, it was a hotel between this and the farm that we visited, which will be on the next slide. And I kind of had to chuckle at it because we're brought up to this upper room inside that castle, and they bring in this Scottish guy, and he starts playing music, and it's about 25 minutes long. Nobody knew the words, and it was so cold in there we could hardly stand it. And I'm thinking, that was put on for the tour. You don't see people playing the bagpipes very often. You don't see the kilts unless you go into the central portion of the country or way up in the north past Inverness. There's still a lot of clans people that they claim to be clans because they're very proud of it, and it's part of their heritage, and they don't want to lose that. It never did become British influence like the rest of the country. So we just have to kind of laugh at that. It's just kind of a fun picture. Go ahead next. Okay. This was fantastic. They took us out to this farm, and I think you probably could go also to the next one. Will you go to the next one too? Yeah. They took us to this farm, the sheep, where they have sheep. For every 100 sheep, you've got 60 dogs. Okay? On a herd.
Yeah, say that again.
For every 100 sheep, you need about 60 dogs because you've got land that covers like all of Cowlitz County over to Rainier. You've got land that you can't hardly see, rolling land. So these dogs are trained, and I can't do it without standing up. This guy whistles with his tongue, with his fingers like this, and then he points one finger, and one dog will take over here to the right. He does a different whistle. Another dog goes over here to the left. Then you've got 4 dogs, and he goes, put, 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 put. And they are everywhere, surrounding those sheep, and they get them herded. And then he makes this call, and he goes like this, no whistle, and they herd them back to the barn. It was amazing. The guy had been doing it for 35 years. His daddy did it his entire life. But the most amazing thing was those dogs, when they're born, they already know it. 6 weeks old. The master, he stands up and he hollers at these 6 weeks old little guys, and they come running, and they have to stand in the middle of his leg, and they line up, and they're waiting for him to make this whistle or this sound, and they are just, you can see them breathing, they are anxious, and he gives them a sign, whoop, they're off. He's already their master, and he told us if they can't do that at 6 weeks, they will never be a herding dog. Never. They know it right off the bat, or they don't know it. Kind of like us, huh? We kind of know it, or we don't. We can't be taught. Kind of like me. Anyway, it was just absolutely amazing. A female will sell for $39,000 American money. One female. 39,000.
Female or female?
Female. Yeah, they're worth a lot of money because he doesn't have to hire anybody else. The farmer doesn't have to hire anybody. He's got his dogs. He actually lives, he just spends all day long, all evening, goes home for a short while and comes right back to the farm. Very few people live on the farms. They used to live on the farms. That was their life. So, so later on I'll talk about what do you think they do with sheep? Well, we'll talk about that, huh? Sheep for meat. For meat. Sheep and beef are the number 2 meat in Scotland, but there's something else. Not wool. Where do you think wool comes from? From what? Lambs.
From the lamb?
Lamb.
Oh, lamb's wool.
Lamb. Wool comes from a lamb. Okay, they also raise goats. What do they do with the goats? Huh? Cheese. Some milk. But what other kind of material? Huh? Leather and what? What'd you say, Roberta? Yeah, Angora. Cashmere. Cashmere. It's the finest material in the world. But it's very, very hard to work with. Can you imagine taking a goat and you have to take that skin so gently off of that fur? There's a real thin layer of fur. That's what they make the cashmere out of. That's why a real cashmere sweater is going to cost you $1,000, not $200. And the cashmere that you could buy from them would never have synthetic fiber like ours have in it. Even if you pay $300, $400, $500, they're usually mixed with synthetic fiber. So it was kind of amazing for me. I didn't know the difference between the two. Go ahead, Keith. There's a cashmere mill. All the different colors that they can, they don't have a whole lot of colors, just the basic red, kind of a, I didn't see a real navy blue. I saw light blue, orange. I did see red, but they said red fades so bad that they hardly ever use it. Red's a real hard color and it doesn't keep its color. That would happen to be the Johnstons, and you can go online and order materials from the Johnstons for this. Go ahead, Keith. That was the actual mill. It had a odor to it. Huh? Yeah. I got a little bit sick after a while. It was just, there's an odor in there from, they go through quite a process to get the skins and all the material put in the vats. But it's quite amazing. The mills that they have been there for a long time. It'd be just like Weyerhaeuser or Fiber. The original mills that around here are the old mills, and the basic idea of the mill still is the same idea today, just a little bit different equipment. Go ahead, Keith. So we traveled on, and if you remember the map, we're traveling to the south of Scotland, and we are in a prehistoric Crannog. Crannog is the name of the area, and they would actually put the huts. You can see the hut on the upper right corner there. This was to protect the inlands. It was the only way they could fight people coming from the waterways to coming in and taking over even more than what they had taken over prior to that time. So this was a safety valve for Scotland. Pretty barbaric, but it served the purpose. It saved a lot of lives. They could see the actual town itself sat back probably like almost a block, half a city block or a block away from where these huts were set up. They were for defense only. Okay. This actually took place 2,800 years ago, okay, these huts. The Stone Age was 6,100 years ago. In the same area, just a little bit different huts. Still the same idea, protect the waterways, just like we did down here at the beach. If you go down to the beach, down to Fort Stevens, you can see where we used to protect our waterways during World War II. Is the same idea. Anywhere where they could get a boat and land on our property, we were going to protect it at all costs, and that's what they were doing in the Crannog Center. Okay, go ahead, Keith. This is how they lived there. Of course, they're out where there is nobody else, so they have to produce their own food. Fishing, making their own yarn, making their own material, weaving. She had shoes on. You don't see it very well, but she had shoes on from a skin of, I think she said it was like a squirrel. And that's what she wore. That's what you have to wear. You can't be going to town every time you want something. So you just take advantage of what you've got around there. This actually is about an 11-mile stretch of waterway, so they had a lot of area that they had to protect. There were a lot of little inlands, and they would have this same type of living culture at that time to protect the land. It kept people from coming into the inland. This is the Blackland Falls from where we were, where you saw the huts. If you took some of the back little walks, you could go for miles and see this kind of stuff. And it was, what we discovered is they must have got pretty bored when they got all their work done, because they would come up with these little things that looked like they just kind of molded moss, sticks, whatever they could find. You know how women have to do something with their hands. I'm sure the guys just kind of followed along, but they had other things to do. But it was absolutely wonderful, some of the little statue things, and my daughter and I were pretty tickled over that one, so we had to take a picture of it. And they call that area Dunkeld. Dunkeld. Go ahead, Keith.
By the way, that's the daughter that connects me.
Yeah, that's a daughter connected to my son. Okay. Edinburgh. Edinburgh. This is Edinburgh. It's gorgeous. You could spend weeks there. There's so much to see. Okay, go ahead, Keith. This is the back side of the castle. We stayed right here. It would be, right here was our hotel, so we had to look at this all the time. It was just absolutely gorgeous. Right out our window. Okay. The castle of Edinburgh has been occupied since the Iron Age. Okay. Long, long time. The Malcolm III was in it in the 11th century, and then it was taken over in the late 1500s, And the last person to actually live in it was in 1633. And he was a king, and he decided that he was going to live there, and he only lived there a few months just so he could say he lived in that. And after that, it became the property, British property, so that anybody could go in there, stay in there, but the British kind of, I'm not going to say they said no, but it was not a cool place to live. It became private property, and it was handed over to a family, and I believe, if it serves me right, it was a rich Campbell that she was gifted the house, and then she gifted the house back to the British government, and kings and queens would come and visit. Royalty would be served dinners and whatnot, but it was never a livable place. You can go through every single room. They still have ceremonies there. Queen Elizabeth, who's just passed, had several ceremonies there. The king does not go there. Most people don't go there. It's mostly traveling people that go there. But it is within the 1 mile, they call it a 1 mile track. There's a mile towards Edinburgh that just makes a big loop, and there's shops, hotels, castles, walking, forest, gardens. It's a wonderful place to just do whatever you want to do. If you want to sit and watch people and enjoy your coffee and whatnot, you can sit and watch people for a long, long time. I hope I didn't bore you. I wanted to give you a little bit of history, and that is my presentation.